Mr. Right here. Now, when we were looking at factorising quadratics with a single x squared, you'll have seen that you need to find two numbers that multiply to something and add to something. So let's have a look at a way of doing this so that you can do it easily, so that you can factorise quadratics with a single x squared easily too. So let's have a look at these examples here, and then you can try some yourself. Top left, we need to multiply to plus 40. That means that my numbers have to both be negative or both be positive because they multiply to a positive. I see my numbers also add to a positive number, they add to 13. So they better both be positive then, because if they were both negative, they wouldn't add to a positive number. So I'm looking for two numbers which are positive and which multiply to 40. 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 5 and 8, 4 and 10, but I need them to add to 13. Well, 5 and 8 is going to be the answer there. I suppose you could write out each pair and see which one's added to 13, or you can simply work in your head. Let's have a look at this example bottom left. Again, my numbers multiply to a positive number, to 40. So they must both be positive or both be negative. But I see that they add to a negative number. So in this case, they've both got to be negative. So I don't know, minus 1 and minus 40. Minus 4, minus 10. Well, each of those pairs, neither of those add up to minus 13. But minus 5 and minus 8, that adds up to minus 13. Okay, let's have a look over here. The top example here, my two numbers multiply to a negative number. So one's got to be positive and one's got to be negative. They have to multiply to minus 40. So again, I'm thinking about pairs of numbers that multiply to 40. Now, my two numbers, one of them's positive and one of them's negative. The two numbers add to give me a positive. So the positive one must overbalance the negative one. It must outweigh the negative one, because when I add up these two numbers, they give me a positive answer. So I'm looking for numbers which multiply to minus 40, but they've got to balance out to 3. So they've kind of, the two numbers have to sort of have a difference of 3. Well, they add to 3, but one of them's positive and one of them's negative. So they have to balance. Let's have a look. Could it be, for instance, plus 4 and minus 10? Well, plus 4 times minus 10 is certainly minus 40. But if I add those up, 4 and 10 have a difference of 6. So it's not going to give me 3 here, plus 4 minus 10. So that's not going to work. Now, two factors of 40, which do have a difference of 3, are 5 and 8. Now, 5 eighths are 40. If I make one of those negative, it's going to give me a product of minus 40. Brilliant. Now, I want a total of plus 3. So shall I make the 5 negative and the 8 positive? Or shall I have the 5 positive and the 8 negative? Let's have a look. Shall I make the 5 positive? Sorry, the 5 negative and the 8 positive? Or shall I have the 5 positive and the 8 negative? Well, the answer here is going to be this one, because I want the 8 to outweigh the minus 5 so that I end up with a positive here. So minus 5 and plus 8. Let's have a look at this one. I'm going to multiply to minus 40. So again, one of them's positive, one of them's negative, but this time they have to add to minus 3. So I want my two factors of 40 that have a difference of 3, but I'm going to make the larger of them negative and the smaller positive. So when I add them, I get a negative 3 there. Okay, so perhaps you need to try some to get the hang of them. So here are 12 examples. Why not pause the video and have a go at each one? Don't spend, if you get stuck, move on. Okay, and pause the video and then play the video when you're ready for me to run through them. Okay, so I'm going to run through the answers to these now. Here, multiply to a positive number and add to a positive number. They're both going to be positive, and the answer here is 5 and 3. 5 and 3, because 3 is 15 and they add to 8. Right, I've got to multiply to 20, so they're both going to be positive or both negative, but they add to a negative 9, so they've both got to be negative. So it's going to be minus 4 and minus 5. Multiply to a negative, look at that, and they add to a 7. Now they both multiply to a negative, so one's plus and one's minus. 10 and 3 is a 30, and 10 and 3 have a difference of 7. I need a positive 7, so that must be plus there and minus there. What about this one? Okay, well, again, they multiply to minus 30, and they've got to have a difference of 7, or they've got to add to minus 7. So in this case, it's going to be minus 10 and 3. It's the opposite of the previous example. Okay, let's have a look at the middle column here. Multiply to minus 10 and add to 3. Well, one positive, one negative, and they've got to balance out to give me plus 3. So it's going to be 5 and minus 2. I thought this one was going to be the opposite, but it's not. This one, they multiply to 10, so they've got to be both positive or both negative. They add to a negative, so they've got to be both negative. Well, minus 2 minus 5, that doesn't give me minus 11. Aha. Minus 1, minus 10. 1, 10 is 10. Easy to forget about that pair of factors that gives you 10. Multiply to 20 and add to 21. Well, multiplies to 20, so 2 and 10, 5 and 4. Oh, wait a minute, 1 and 20. Again, easy to forget. Multiply to minus 16 and add to 0. Well, one's got to be positive and one's negative, but they've got to cancel each other out. Minus 4 and 4. Okay. Multiply to 81. Well, I only know 9 nines are 81. And that works, because 9 plus 9 is 18. Multiply to 25 and add to minus 10. So they both got to be negative. So what two numbers multiply? Oh, well, I suppose minus 1 and minus 25. But that would give me minus 26, not minus 10. Wait a minute, 5 5s are 25. So I'm going to do minus 5 and minus 5. And that gives me minus 10. Multiply to minus 9 and add to 8. So they've got to be one positive, one negative. Okay. Multiply to... So it could be minus 3 and 3. But that doesn't add to 8. Wait a minute, it's 1 and 9 again, isn't it? It's 1 and 9. It's going to have to be minus 1 and plus 9, because then they would add up to 8. Multiply to 64. Well, 8 8s are 64. Let's try that. Yes, 8 8s are 64, and they add to 16. There you are. Now, in the next film, I will introduce you to a booklet to help you practice this. Okay, so you might want to move on through the playlist. If you've got any questions or comments, or you want me to explain something again, or differently, or properly, or more thoroughly, leave me a comment and I will respond.